We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs.
The last time we tried this tariff policy, we got 10 years of the Great Depression. This is really stupid public policy, and there's no surprise that the Republicans...
In a deeply concerning development for the American manufacturing sector, Cleveland-Cliffs Inc., a preeminent and integral force in the nation's steel and mining industry, has made the difficult and far-reaching decision to announce a massive and painful workforce reduction. Welcome viewers to my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe, like my video and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. This action impacts a staggering total of more than 1,200 steel and mine workers across its key operations in both Michigan and Minnesota. This drastic measure, according to official company statements, is a direct and necessary response to a perfect storm of weak market conditions and a significant and unforeseen slowdown in U.S. automotive production. The company has been forced to recalibrate its operations to match a new, more challenging economic reality. The layoffs will affect a substantial 600 workers at the company's Dearborn Works plant in Michigan, a vital and strategically important hub for domestic steel manufacturing, while an additional 630 jobs will be eliminated at a crucial iron ore mining operation located in Virginia, Minnesota. To comply with federal regulations, the company has officially issued Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification (WARN) Act notices in both states, with the mass layoffs scheduled to take effect on July 15. This deeply unsettling news has sent shockwaves through the local communities, where thousands of families rely directly or indirectly on these industrial jobs for their livelihoods, creating a palpable sense of anxiety and financial insecurity. This move by Cleveland-Cliffs is not an isolated or unique incident but rather a symptomatic reflection of the broader, interconnected economic pressures that are currently rippling with increasing force through the entire North American steel industry. Just 1 month prior, a prominent Canadian steelmaker had also announced substantial job cuts, directly citing the adverse effects of new U.S. tariffs on their business model and demand. The confluence of these events paints a clear picture of an industry under siege from external forces. Patricia Persico, a spokeswoman for Cleveland-Cliffs, described the job cuts as a necessary but temporary step to adjust the company's production capacity to align with a current, reduced market demand. She expressed a hopeful and optimistic outlook for the future, noting that once President Trump's trade policies are fully implemented and automotive manufacturing is reshored back to the United States, the company anticipates it will be in a strong position to resume full production and rehire the laid-off workers. This perspective suggests that the company views the current downturn not as a long-term structural decline, but as a temporary, policy-driven contraction, placing its faith in a future shift in national economic policy to reverse its fortunes and restore full employment. This is a gamble on policy, hoping for a future where a protected domestic market will revitalize demand and shield it from global competition. The economic fallout: tariffs, slowing auto sales, and an unraveling supply chain. The ripple effect of new trade policies is a critical and complex factor driving Cleveland-Cliffs' decision. On March 12, President Donald Trump's administration implemented a sweeping 25% tariff on steel and aluminum from all countries, with the ominous threat of even higher reciprocal duties looming on the horizon. This protectionist policy, while praised by some as a necessary measure to level the playing field, has injected a considerable and destabilizing level of uncertainty into the industrial supply chain, particularly for the automotive industry, which is an enormous and vital consumer of steel. While the tariffs were ostensibly intended to protect American industries from foreign competition, they have also created a climate of unpredictability that affects both domestic and international markets, disrupting established and finely tuned trade relationships that have been built over decades. Analysts at Cox Automotive, a leading analytics and software company, have been forced to significantly and downwardly revise their forecast for U.S. new vehicle sales in 2025. They now project sales of approximately 15.6 million vehicles, representing a sharp 4.3% decrease from their earlier, more optimistic forecast of 16.3 million. This substantial reduction in projected sales directly translates to a lower and more volatile demand for the specialized steel required for vehicle production, creating a difficult and challenging market for steelmakers to navigate. A recent report from Cox Automotive warned in stark terms that these tariffs, depending on their duration and scope, have the potential to upend both the U.S. auto market and the larger economy. The report quoted their senior economist, Charlie Chesbrough, who observed that the industry was just beginning to find stable ground after a period of volatility when these new obstacles were suddenly introduced. He emphasized that the main question for the industry now is the longevity and ultimate impact of the tariffs, as the potential for higher vehicle prices and disruptions at the border could lead to a significant and sustained drop in sales volume. This economic uncertainty makes it incredibly difficult for companies to formulate long-term business strategies and investment plans, leading to a climate of caution and reduced capital expenditure. The challenging economic environment is forcing companies like Cleveland-Cliffs to make painful and difficult decisions to align their operational capacity with a contracting market, leading directly to the widespread layoffs. The situation highlights a complex and often contradictory interplay between government policy and corporate decision-making, where tariffs intended to help one sector may unintentionally harm another by disrupting the entire supply chain and creating a climate of fear and unpredictability. The interconnectedness of these industries means a policy designed for one purpose can have unintended and far-reaching consequences, extending beyond the intended target. Canada's steel sector grapples with the immediate and severe force of U.S. tariffs. The economic consequences of the U.S. tariffs are being felt just as severely and immediately in Canada, underscoring the deep and often precarious economic ties that bind the two nations. Canadian officials have been explicit in their blame of the tariffs for the hundreds of steelworker layoffs that occurred last month. The Canada Metal Processing Group (MPG) and its subsidiaries, which collectively employ over 1,600 workers across Ontario and Quebec, issued a news release stating that they were undertaking difficult but necessary steps to adapt to the current challenging market and the threat of incoming tariffs from the United States on steel and steel derivatives. The company explained that these measures are designed to help them preserve the majority of their workforce and operational footprint while responding to the immediate and damaging impact these trade threats are having on the demand for their products, both directly and indirectly, from U.S. customers. The tariffs have effectively made their products more expensive and less competitive for American buyers, leading to a sharp and unsustainable drop in orders. Similarly, Algoma Steel, located in Sault Ste. Marie, has already laid off around 20 employees due to the loss of customers directly linked to the tariffs, as confirmed by CEO Michael Garcia. The company has seen a measurable decline in demand from American clients who are now facing higher costs and are thus choosing alternative, non-Canadian suppliers, a direct consequence of the trade policy. The United Steelworkers in Canada, USW Canada, is anticipating more grim news in the coming weeks and months. Marty Warren, the national director, has publicly stated his belief that layoffs will escalate if the Trump administration proceeds with imposing reciprocal tariffs in the near future. This sentiment reflects the widespread fear that the current situation is only the beginning of a larger, more devastating crisis for the Canadian steel industry. The combined actions and public statements from companies and unions on both sides of the border paint a clear and concerning picture of an industry struggling with profound instability, with the new trade policies acting as a primary catalyst for the widespread job cuts and economic uncertainty. The situation serves as a stark and sobering reminder of how interconnected the North American industrial economy is and how a policy change in one country can have swift and severe consequences in another, creating a ripple effect of job losses, financial hardship, and economic anxiety across the continent. The full extent of the economic damage and disruption remains to be seen, but the initial signs are not promising for the workers and communities caught in the crossfire of this evolving trade conflict. The future of North American steel is now inextricably linked to political decisions being made in Washington.